Looking to create your first AI-generated video? In the next hour, you're going to learn the essentials about video generation using Runway. Our full course is linked down below. Time to bring those ideas to reality. We're here at the first page of Runway. This is before you make an account and before you do anything within this program. So Runway is a platform where you get to create videos, images, audio, all using AI. Runway is just one example of AI creative tools. There's tons more out there, but we're going to be focusing on the basics and a project that we get to build together so that we utilize all the tools that we learn about. So right over here, you can go ahead and click on Get Started. So for you, most likely, if this is the first time you're using Runway, this is the page you will see. You can log in or sign up with your Apple, Google, or any other way that you prefer. So I just signed into my account, and this is the page that I was brought to. For you, it may be different, and that's because of your plans. Down here, where you should probably see your photo, if you hit Upgrade Your Plan, you'll be brought into this page where you get to decide how much you want to pay for this service. So you can technically use Runway for free, you just have limited credits. Each video and photo takes a certain amount of credits, and that depends on how big your prompt is. I'll get into what those mean later, but as you can see, the prices are very different and you have the option of paying yearly or monthly. I currently have this plan and it gives me this many credits monthly and it's just unlimited. But as you can see, there's tons of cheaper options or more expensive options out there. It just depends on how often you plan to use this tool. One thing to keep in mind is that just because you're getting unlimited for this account, for example, doesn't mean that it's unlimited for everything. So this applies to videos and images, but it doesn't for AI voiceovers. So you do have to do your research and make sure that it's the perfect plan for you. Most people come over here for video generations and images. For that purpose, this is the perfect plan because you just have unlimited credits and you get to use all of the brand new models. So you can see for the free version, there is no Gen 4 video. Gen 4 is their latest model, which gives you the best and fastest results. If you don't have access to that, you can just imagine how your videos will compare with this plan versus with this plan. Here we can see that we get unlimited generations of Gen 4 Turbo, Gen 3 Alpha, Gen 3 Enact 1, and basically all of their models. If you go for this one, you have a limited amount of space, and over here you have limited amount of space as well, and it's just a smaller upgrade. So let's hit X and I will go over here to go to my dashboard. So this is where you'd want to start with anything because you get access to all the tools and you get to click on the right path. Starting from the top right, we have some announcements that Runway makes regarding new features, updates, and anything else. You can click on them and you will be brought into their own website. Next is your photo. Here you can view your account, look at your workspace settings, manage your plan, which is where we were. Runway API, this is if you want to develop and integrate Runway into one of your softwares. You have the option to upgrade your plan and hit log out. Now over here, it's just your personal stuff, your name, your email, billing information, all sorts of stuff. Workspace setting, this is your workspace. If you click on it, you are going to work with logo. So if you're just one person, it could be a photo of yourself, but if you're a company, you would want to come here and put your company logo. We have members. If you're sharing this workspace with other members, this is where you get to invite them, and then plans and billing. Next is some general chatbot for you to ask questions, get help. You just type in something here, maybe attach a screenshot or another document that can help you get an answer, and then you just hit send. And we can go down here to home. Let's hit X on that. Go to home. That brings us to our original page. Now here we have a search bar. You can search for tools, different projects, any sort of assets that you have. is just your overall search bar. On the top left, that's again your account, but it's more specific. So you could either access the stuff from there or from here. You can switch workspaces if you're working with more than one email. Say your personal account and your company account. This is where you get to make that switch. Down here we have invite members again. Home is this page. Sessions are essentially the projects that you make with Runway. Every time you go to create an image or a video, you are starting a new session. Think of it as a project. You get to rename it, make multiple images in that project, and all of that will be automatically saved to your account. So if I click on sessions right now, I can see all the stuff that I've made with Runway. All these little projects. There's 3 little dots at the top right. I get to rename them or delete the sessions. We can sort the sessions via these categories and just start a new session like this, which I will show you how to do in another lesson. Next up is Runway Watch. This is basically the explore page of just good inspirations for you to look at. A lot of times it's just a cool space to come in and look at all the amazing stuff people make with Runway. There are a bunch of festivals that you can enter or just look at the winners. Over here you can submit a film to Runway or submit a bumper and see how you get evaluated based off your work. Now the assets category are the things that you make with Runway. First is private. This is the things that you make privately and basically no one has the option to see it unless you share it with them. So if you click on it, it's just a folder for you to organize your work. There's a lot of the stuff here and I get to either delete them, share them, move them somewhere else, rename, and just categorize my work. There's all sorts of stuff here. We have images, videos, even stuff from outside, which I did not make with Runway. Everything you build will end up here. Again, you can see we have folders for sessions, which were our projects. Generative audio, this is when I made a bunch of audios with my work, and then just generations in general. You can upload new stuff over here from your computer, make new folders to organize your work, change the way you view your projects, and filter through them like this. Next is your shared folder. So anything that you share with people or people have shared with you, they're going to show up over here. Again, you have the option to upload, make new folders, categorize them, and filter through them. Now you can favorite your creations to set them apart for later. And the way that works is that there's a little heart in the corner. If you click it, that particular work will be added to the favorited folder, which is right over here. Since you make a lot of imagery or videos, this is a helpful way for you to keep track of the good ones and then come back to them for further modifications. Now in the latest versions of Runway, we have the video editor capabilities, which is actually pretty cool. So instead of making your clips and then downloading them to edit them on Premiere Pro or any other software, you can do it on Runway. So if you click on this, I have some projects that I have made before, but essentially you just click on new project, video composition, or any other magic tool. We're going to take a look at these later. Video composition essentially brings you to a timeline. So if you've edited videos before, this should be pretty familiar to you. You have your timeline down here, you have your assets over here, some elements you get to add, and properties. I'm not going to get into this right now because we have our own dedicated lessons that we'll use to edit videos. Let's go back home, click on more. And lastly, we have shared projects, which is the same thing as this shared folder, but for the video editor project. Now, right here is the create category. This is where you get to start creating things. Start a session just creates a new project. You can decide whether you want it to be a video project or a photo project later. But if you know exactly that you want to make a video, you just click on this, image, audio, and there's a bunch of other tools that you can explore by clicking on all tools. I will go through each of these in further lessons. They're all very cool and have unique capabilities for you to explore. A lot of them do tackle bigger tasks such as removing backgrounds, masking, and keying, but within minutes. And then when you go on home, which is where I am right now, we have this big chatbot, which is again a new thing that Runway has applied to their software. Essentially, you get to chat with Runway to come up with that perfect prompt, that perfect idea, where you can then take it and turn it to a video or an image. If you've worked with a chatbot before, like ChatGPT or Gemini, it's pretty much the same thing. You talk to it, you type a bunch of stuff, ask questions, ask for feedback, and the bot will respond to you. There's some prompts down here that you can start with, and you just click on this button. And then down here is just the recent work that you've made. If this is the first time you've used Runway, it's probably not a lot or just nothing at all, but no worries, because by the end of this course, you're going to have a lot of projects that you get to explore and keep for further reference. So now that we have a tour of what Runway has to offer, we can now begin going into the specifics on how to create an image and how to create a video using Runway AI. To generate anything within Runway, you're going to need something called a prompt. A prompt is essentially a command that you give Runway so that it generates something that you want. On the homepage, we can see a few examples right here. So we're commanding Runway to design a Scandinavian style living room, make an ad photo for my sneaker brand, and anything else really. What you do want to do is always ask for something. Be very specific regarding the subject, the object in some cases, in what design you want it in, if there's any sort of style you want to go with, maybe a 80s style, futuristic style, black and white, whatever you want. You have to put it into words. Now, when it comes to good prompts, I'm going to have a separate lesson for that, but we can get started with really simple things when we try to generate an image. So generate image is the most basic thing you can do within Runway. It's really important because you get to create character references and scenes that can later be turned into a video a lot better. So let's click on generate image. You can also click on it here, doesn't matter. And you're going to be brought into a page like this. You can see up here we have image or video. We're going to work with an image. We have the chat mode, which is what I spoke about earlier, it being similar to ChatGPT or other chatbots out there, except you can really take advantage of this when it comes to coming up with the perfect idea. If you have an idea, how do you turn that into scenes? How do you turn it into the best image? This is where you get to describe it. Now, one good thing about using the chat mode, especially when you're starting out, is that you don't really have to describe that idea in detail. You can just make it a really short command like this one, or maybe draw me an apple. Hit enter and you're going to get an apple drawing. But you can see that it's generating 0%. Depending on your plan, it may take a long time or a short amount of time. But basically, I didn't have to specify anything in regards to the color, the lighting. If I wanted to be 3D, a drawing, charcoal, or whatever. But you can see I was able to get a really good shot of an apple. And when I click on this, I can see that it came up with its own prompt based on that short example that I gave it. So the full prompt is visible right over here. You can copy it and use it to generate something else if you want. We can see what it was used, the seed, aspect ratio, and resolution. Now let's go over this page real quick. The first thing is the name of this image, which for now is just a prompt. But if you generate your own image, you can rename it. Actually, we can rename this as well if you wanted to. Hit rename and you're going to get a different name. Here it's going to say who made it, so that's just me. How many minutes ago? We can add a tag to make it easier to find and for other people to use it as well. So we can create a fruit tag and then I could pick a color and there we go. It's just like a hashtag situation. This is the prompt that we already talked about. You get to copy it, paste it in the chat, modify it, make a different apple, all that sort of stuff. Here it's telling us which model was used to make this image. It's Gen 4, which is the latest model. The seed is the unique identification for the style of this image. So it's usually a bunch of numbers, and there's this option to copy it. Now, why would you want to copy a seed? If I want to make a banana with this exact same style, exact same lighting, reflection, I am not able to articulate that in my prompt that easily. But if I put the exact same seed and say a vibrant banana, it's going to give me the exact same style. So seeds are really helpful when you're trying to keep a design consistent. The aspect ratio is just the ratio of the width and the height. Resolution is the quality of that image that you have. So we can see that this is the width and the height. Now there's the option to reuse the prompt and settings. Clicking on this will give you the full prompt again, bring you to the same window. You can download this image, favorite it. It will go in that favorite folder we looked at in the previous lesson. And then we can use add as input. So basically this will be our new reference image. And I could just say a banana here, and it's going to give me a banana in the same outline and style. When you click on this, there's some options up here too. Rename, delete. If you're not a fan of this output, you can send feedback. You can share it with people, download it, and once again, favorite it. Now, if you want, you can switch back to the tool mode, which is this version. We were previously in the chat mode. You can switch it back to tool mode by clicking that button. Now, over here, you can see that it put my prompt straight from that area to this new box. Here in the tool mode, we get a ton more options, and you generally have more flexibility if you know what you're doing. So let's start with what this big page is. Anything you generate within this page is going to show up here. So if I make something else, it'll just go right below. I get to scroll down and look at the different outputs and just work with them. I could delete or hide an output, see the full prompt, which takes us to that full screen mode, reuse settings, which just puts the prompt in there for us, and we can maybe work with a different fruit. Over here, we get to see the model that was used and then the prompt. Now, what's going on over here? Like we said, we had the image mode and video mode. This lesson is just going to be for image. In the next lesson, I'll talk about video. Over here, we have generate prompt from an image. So if you have a reference image that you'd like to use, you can click on this button and just upload it right here. And then that will give you a whole new prompt. I'm just going to delete this prompt by clicking the trash icon and just upload something for you guys to see. So you can see it's analyzing the image, and it's going to give me a prompt based on what it sees. And this is what we have. So first, it's talking about the subject, the scene that the subject is in, and the overall style. Notice how lengthy this prompt is compared to the Apple prompt. That is because we are trying to get something as close to that image as possible. The longer and more detailed your prompt is, the more Runway is going to spend time generating your image and therefore giving you a more promising result than if you were to write 3 words. So before I hit generate, let's take a look at some of the other stuff here, and then we can just generate it. Now, if you wanted more guides regarding prompting, there is a whole dedicated page right here. This is officially from Runway. You can see that over here, it shows you the difference between a simple prompt versus a more detailed one. And you can just see the difference right here. That was the trash button that we saw, and then you get to copy your prompt. Down here, there's this thing called references. If you wanted to keep a character within multiple generations, keeping them consistent, like you can see down here, I actually have an example. You can do that with references. So what that means is that you generate an image of your subject, and then you click on that as your reference. It shows up over here. And then for this image, I had Runway put the subject in a wider shot surrounded by debris and mountains. And you can see how using this as reference, it generated that exact same character, but in a different setting. So we are going to explore this in a different lesson. Don't worry about it now. I'm just showing you what you can do with these. You can rename your images by clicking on this little pencil, and changing it here. Here are your recent stuff, your saved items. You can also upload references from your own computer. There's also the upload button here. We can select from assets, which are the things that you have generated within Runway. So if I click on this, it gives me all my other generations. I can go to sessions, which were my projects, and grab something from some time ago. We can also search by tag, such as using that fruit tag that we gave this image to look for this specific output. Next, we have the styles. If you're not sure how to articulate the style you want, there's a ton of options down here. You simply have to click on them and they will be applied to that prompt. And then whatever you ask for will be generated using this style. I will use these to generate this prompt so you can see the difference. They're actually pretty cool. You can also look at the prompt by clicking on that button and taking a look. Down here we have the option to collapse this whole menu. This shows you what style you've chosen. You can see there's a check mark here. We have the aspect ratio, which is the dimensions of your image. Here you get to ask Runway how many images per prompt. So if you want to do some brainstorming, you would want to increase this amount to 4 images, or you could just keep 1 image. This is the resolution of your image. We also have the aesthetic range. If you are making more than 1 image, like we are right now, we're making 4 images, I could tell Runway to either keep them all the same or make them very different from each other. I'm going to ask for really different styles so that I could take a look at my options and then regenerate from there. We have some other settings down here, which is just fixed seed. Recall that long number list that we found for this image. This is where you copy that seed and paste it here so that this prompt that I generate follows that exact style. If you don't want to use a seed, just turn this off. And then lastly, we have reset, which removes everything and brings you back to the default settings. All right, so now let's go ahead and hit generate. And then I will choose a different style and generate again. So you can see I generated 2 things and they're being listed over here, number 2 and number 3. Once again, we have the style and then the prompt, and then we can see the aesthetic range. Here we can see how long the progression has taken place, how much. And then once we have an image, there are some options over here, which we'll take a look at soon. So this was my prompt and my image that I uploaded. The image that I uploaded was literally the exact same thing as this, but flipped. But you can see it added that 3D style and it gave me a bunch of other styles because I increased this all the way. Let's decrease this to 0 and choose our 3D character style. Hit generate and compare. Now for this one, we chose this style. Again, you can see how the character is consistent. They're all wearing that burgundy sweater, glasses, African American. They all have a microphone somewhere around them, and that's pretty cool. Once again, I will make the exact same style, but this brought down to 0. Now, while those are being generated, let's take a look at what we can do with these images. So with these outputs, you get to once again send feedback, favorite them, download them, use it in chat like we did over here, vary, input for video, and reference for image. From this list, we know how to use reference for image. It just goes over here, and the next prompt that you generate is going to have this as your main subject. Input for video is something we'll get into later, but essentially you get to have this character in your video generations, which you would make in this tab. Vary is when you want to take this image and get really similar variations to it. So say this image is perfect, but I want some different head movements. I could just click on this and it's going to generate similar images to this alone. Okay, so let's take a look. You can see when I brought down the range to 0, they look a lot more similar and they have that 3D look to them. course, Runway did not completely switch out my character. This was my original image, so you can just see how similar they are in terms of lighting, character, objects, and all of that. And this is with the Nordic style. This is when I varied it. You can see the symbol over here. And now I get to look at my subject from different angles and choose the one that works best for me. Now all of these things are being saved in our session that we talked about. This is a project. If I ever wanted to come back to it, I just need to look for Fresh Apple Still Life. But of course I could change it into something else. My project maybe. Rename it, and that is the new name. We get to delete this session, see the stuff that we've made in our asset library, change the location that they're being saved in, and of course rename it. So that's all you can do for image generations with Runway. In the next lesson, we're going to go over video before we head into how we can use our credits more effectively and how we can just begin making really good works with Runway AI. Now let's switch over to the video generation tab, which allows you to do a similar situation like the image, but for video. Just click on this, and you can also access this through the homepage with generate a video, whichever method you prefer. But you can see not much changes when we switch from image to video. The first thing you do have to recognize is that Runway uses different models. We talked about this briefly. Down here you get to see the different models. So Gen 4, Turbo, Gen 4, and then previous versions. Now why is this important for video? And don't we always want the best one? The thing about the most efficient video model is that it requires a reference image. So you can't just type in a video of a giraffe and it won't give you anything because there is no giraffe for it to refer to. However, if you'd like to just put in your prompt and get a video out of it, you would have to simply switch to an older model. So just go to alpha and I'll write video of a giraffe. And you can see that I can generate, but if I was on Gen 4 Turbo, I can't do it. So let's go down here and then we'll see how we can use an image for the Gen 4 Turbo. Now let's ignore this for a second. This once again is your prompt box, and we do have a separate guide that you can read by clicking here. We get to delete the prompt, copy it, and down here there are a few things that we can look at. These settings down here are unique for video, so we're not going to get the same thing for image as we saw. The first one is text prompt, which is what we're doing. We're giving a text for a prompt so we can get a video. Next is camera control. I will get into the details of this in a further lesson, but for tour's sake, we're going to go over them. Camera control does need you to switch over. You can see I can't really use this with alpha, but I'll show you what it looks like after we try this out. We have some presets for our prompt. So we have examples that you can take a look at. You can click on this and see what it takes to create a surreal levitation effect. You hit apply and it goes onto your prompt. So here it just gave me a template. It deleted my giraffe prompt. And the purple area is where I get to talk about my subject. So let me see, what do we want to float? I'm just gonna click on the purple part and write what you want. I'll write a dog. And then down here we get to describe the style. I think I'll do cinematic. So just fill in the blanks and then you can generate. Now before you hit generate, you have two options, whether you want it to be 10 seconds or 5 seconds. The longer it is, the more variation your subject is going to have, but you could just start with a 5-second video, especially if you have limited credits, and then just expand the ones that you like. I will go to 10 seconds since I have unlimited, and I do want to show you what they would look like. So let's hit generate, and then while that's happening, let's take a look at some other stuff. Now this one again is being hidden because I'm using an older model, over here we have the same fixed seed setting, just as we did with the image, nothing different here. And then we get to reset the settings. All right, now let's switch over to our latest model and begin by choosing an image as our reference. I'm just gonna select one of my assets. This is the stuff we made from last lesson, so I'm just gonna double click and grab any of these. Double click and now you have a image on top of your prompt. Now what you can do here is change the aspect ratio. So let's do a square. You can move this around, switch over to a different thing, zoom in or zoom out. So maybe I'll do this, crop this out, and we get to add a seed if we'd like. Let's delete this actually. And with video, when you have an image like this, you don't really need to put in a prompt because it can just refer to this subject and just have it move, a very basic movement. So we'll see the difference. I'll generate one without anything here, and then I'll do one where he's serious, or just serious. Hit generate, and let's see what we get. Now, if I switch over to a different model, I have access to all of these options. Now, over here, we have the name of our image, and I cropped it, so it's saying cropped. We get to duplicate this image to add more keyframes. And basically, these are references per the length of your video. So if I have 10 seconds, I add 3 images here. It's going to use all 3 to fill in that 10-second request that we made. You can also just do 1 if you want, but you need at least 1 for this to work. We get to crop the image once again. We get to replace the image with something else or just remove it completely. Now down here, we have the aspect ratio like we talked about. If you click on it, you get to turn this to a portrait or a landscape. Resolution is listed down here. And this is the camera controls that I wanted to show you. Now, as you can see, my image here has a faded camera icon on top of it. And essentially, you're going to be moving that camera over it in these different directions. Think of it as if you had this image printed on your hand and you simply move your head. That's exactly the function that this camera will play. So for example, I could move it towards the left, the right, pan it left or right. We can move it vertically, tilt it, zoom it, and all sorts of movements with these sliders. If you'd like to return to the original, just hit clear. Next, we have some presets. This is the examples we looked at earlier. You can also create your new custom presets, so something you plan on using more than once. You hit create new, give it a name, write your prompt, and hit create. Next, we have character act 1. I will get into this in a different lesson. It's a little bit long, but basically you get to have a photo act out a scene. So it could start talking, it could start moving its head, depending on the driving performance. So here you would actually upload a real video, either something from the internet, or you can just record yourself, and then pick a character from either the presets or upload your own character. These are just static images, and basically Runway will have this character, for example, move and talk exactly according to this character that you're going to upload. It's a pretty cool feature. We'll take a look at that later. And lastly, we have expand video. So here's a little preview. You can turn it vertical, horizontal, and Runway is going to work on recreating the elements around it. All right, let's take a look at our finished products. The first one was the dog video, a floating dog. This is with the oldest available model, so Gen 3 Alpha. Let's take a look. So there's my dog. It's kind of shape-shifting in a way, but you can see how I didn't have to give it an image, and Runway kind of got creative over here. Now here are some stuff that you can do with the outputs. You can hide them, give feedback, look at the full prompt, reuse the settings like we saw with the image generations, But down here we have more options. So you get to download this video as either MP4 or a GIF file. Next to it, we can upscale it to 4K. So right now this is not 4K. It's whatever dimension you chose. I think it was 1080. But once you're happy with it, you get to click on this and it's going to increase the size for you by using some credits. So don't waste your credits unless you're really happy with what you have here. Next, we get to favorite it, share it. We can go to actions, upscale, lip sync, act 1 that we saw here, adjust the video in that timeline that we saw, and then expand video, which is just this feature. Lip sync is going to be something we'll take a look at later, but essentially you can add an audio to this video and have, say, the dog talk that audio out. It works better with headshots, not exactly a floating dog, but that's something we can take a look at later as well. You can also use the frame for either a input for your next video or a reference for an image generation. We can extend the time. If 10 seconds is not enough, we can extend it to 20, adding 10 more seconds, and then say what happens to this dog. So maybe the dog lands on the mountain. We can restyle this with a different prompt or give it some more structural information. We can also take a look at some examples over here. This is similar to that image style feature we saw with the 3D characters. Now let's go to our second video, which is with Gen 4 Turbo, and we had a reference image. This has no prompts. You can see there's nothing here. So let's see what Runway does. So Runway figures out that this person is in front of a microphone, and the function of a microphone is have something speak into it or a sound to be recorded. And you can see it does a pretty good job. Our subject doesn't blink that much, but that's something you can just change in your prompt. Here we added a serious word. I didn't give image and video using Runway. These were, of course, really general explanations on what the tools are for. I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Okay, so we're here in the dashboard, and before I get into how we can use our credits effectively, I'm just going to walk you through the platform one more time in case it's been a while since you've used Runway. So this right here is the home page. So right after you sign into your account, you're going to be directed to a page like this. What we have here is a chatbot that lets you immediately get started with generating, although it's going to be a lot more simpler compared to the tools that we have over here. So think of this as something like ChatGPT. You put in something like this. There are some examples down here. We have a plus button for references where you get to add an image of a different character, of a landscape, and have Runway generate things based off of that. Now you can see on the top left the amount of credits you have. Right now mine is unlimited. Yours may be a different story, but this is the very topic we're going to be focusing on in this lesson. Down below we have the sessions. So whatever you create, it's going to create a session for you in Runway. By that I mean that if I were to click on one of these, it's going to be untitled session, and once it gives me the result, it's going to change the name. So based off of my prompt, it created a session for me. Now think of a session as a history book based on your first prompt. So you can always go back to it, make some changes, alter it however you like, and always come back to it. So there is my result right now. We can see that I can download it, favorite it, and it gives me a little bit of a description. This chat feature is relatively new, so you can kind of communicate with Runway how you would like to go about these generations. Now, the things such as upscaling, changing a certain color, removing a certain part, that's something you can do on a different interface. You can see that the chat mode is in beta. So what you can do is add this as an input and have it maybe change the plant in the corner. We can also start a whole new chat and therefore a whole new session. Now let's go back to our dashboard and take a look at the session bar. So that's where all of these things are going to be saved. So you can see the one that I just made a minute ago is going to be here for me. I made this one 5 months ago. I can click on it and go back to where I started. So this is a video that I made in our tutorial, our 1 hour tutorial, and I could just add stuff to it and alter it how I like. Now we have the Runway watch where you get to get inspiration for your next creation. There's a lot of cool stuff here, so I do highly recommend that you look over this. In the Assets tab, we have things that we've made. We can like it, share it, favorite it, make different projects, and all of that. Right below it is all of the tools that Runway has to offer, and if you click on All Tools, you get to see all of them. On the top bar right here, you get to categorize them based off what they're used for. Most of them are for video, but there are some image and audio tools as well. If you can't find something, you can just do a quick search up here, and that is about it. In terms of credits, you can go up to your image right here and just upgrade plan. Alright, so let's talk about how we get to use these credits in the best way possible. So when you first start with a free account, you have a limited amount of credits. So instead of just prompting everything and wasting them on things that you may not like, say you just type man in the chat box right now, you get a output. You don't like it, but you just wasted about 5 to 8 credits depending on how big your prompt is. You just keep on going trying to get that output you want, but it's not working out. During this whole process, you just lost maybe 250 credits. Now you can just upgrade your plan or wait until those credits are regenerated. But in this lesson, I just want to talk about how we can prevent wasting credits and what we can do to use them effectively, and finally, how much credit is being allocated to each of the tasks that Runway has to offer. So when we go to one of these tools, let's say we want to generate a video, we can see down here, it's written Gen 4 right now, but if I click on it, we have Turbo, Gen 4, and there are some previous models. So before we go into credits, let's kind of reconnect with the different models. If you go down here, we have 2 models available. There's also a tab for previous models. So Gen 4 Turbo, just Gen 4 in general, is the latest model that Runway has released. We can see a snippet right here. Everything is pretty high quality. They made this using images made in Runway. So this is a new feature where you get to do both at the same time. Now over here, we do have previous models as well. These are still available mainly because there are certain times where you do want to use an older model. So say you don't want something this crisp, this high quality, you're going for something more vintage, then you would want to take it down a step and go for those older models. Now, just for demonstration's sakes, let's go to Gen 4 Turbo, and then we have the duration. Now, the reason why we only have 5 and 10 seconds is because Runway is going to take credits from you based on the number of seconds that you have. So that's why we have 2 options. The number of credits it takes for, say, 5 seconds depends on your prompt. So are you giving it a huge paragraph or are you giving it 1 sentence? We can just try that ourselves. Go to 5 seconds. I'll keep everything as it is. And now I'm going to do a very simple prompt. A man walking in a rainy forest. So no reference images, no nothing, but you can see that the generate box, the button is so grayed out. That's because I don't have an image. So let's quickly change this to one of the Gen 3s. Let's go to alpha. So I could create the most basic form of a Runway video. Click enter, it goes in the queue, and this depends on your plan, but if you do have a free plan, it is going to take longer than if you had a higher level plan. But nonetheless, it's still going to dedicate enough resources to your project and create a video based on your prompt. Now this is interesting. It's telling us that our video is being put into this category. I'm just going to open it right here. And you can see that it named one of my sessions. So I did all of this today, and you can see that it's putting it in one place. The only video I've made so far is this one, so that's why the name is being named after this video. Alright, and here is our video. So it's pretty well made. There are some glitches. Try to do some rain, but it's still not so bad. But as we know, we can take this a step further by specifying the camera angles, the aesthetic, the motion, the subject, the setting, and all of those stuff. So for a video this short, we can say that it uses 10 credits per second. So now that I have 10 seconds, you can see that I did lose a bunch of credits. And if I only had, say, 200 credits in my account, that's half of it gone. So what should you do? The first thing you want to do is not start straight away in the video tools. That's because they take a lot more credits than image tools do. So the best thing to do is to go to your dashboard, head over to generate image, and brainstorm over here. So if you want to make sure that your subject is looking the way you like it, before moving on to making that a video, you would want to put that same prompt here. So a man walking in a rainy forest. So I don't have the option for any models and any seconds because, like we said, this uses a lot less credit than video does. With using less credits, I could make up a bunch of AI generated images, look for that perfect scene, and then use that output as my reference for that video. And therefore, when I use those 100 credits for my 10-second video, it's the exact way that I want it, the exact same character, the exact same setting, and I don't have to regenerate the video a bunch of times until I get the output that I need. So all the experimentations, the brainstorming can happen in your image sessions. Now, when you have image like this, it does come with a seed, and keeping that seed consistent in your videos is another way to save credits. So this right here, let's click on it. You can see that I'm getting this random number titled seed. So if I just copy this by clicking this, copies it to my clipboard, I can go to video and let's first select our image that we just made, go to my sessions, rainy forest stroll, get my image, double click it and go to settings, fix seeds, and just paste what I copied. Now let's put a description for my video. I'm just going to put the same thing, copy it right here, and paste it. I will use the turbo, 5 seconds, not a lot of resources here, and let's see what we get. So when we scroll down, we can see that it's the exact same character walking into the camera because we didn't really specify what direction they should be walking towards. But if I just scroll up, you can see we have the rain, same character, same outfit, same tree, and the camera is actually pretty still. Now if I uncheck this, because I have a reference image, it's still going to look pretty similar. But if I were to remove the image and just turn on the seed, which I believe was this one, let's go to an older model, and we have the seed right there. Let's see what we get. This does not have a reference image, and I just want you guys to see the difference in how Runway processes your videos with that one. So here our subject is not the same at all, mainly because we didn't have a reference image for Runway to determine what kind of subject we were talking about. But you can see setting wise it's relatively close, but I do want you guys to focus more on the overall aesthetic, that foggy rainforest, the tall trees, the bushes, those are pretty similar. But if I were to add that reference image, there we go, and the seed, I'm going to get the perfect result. So let's just change the prompt a little bit. A man walking in a rainy forest. Let's say laughing. Just one more thing to add on there. I'll go with turbo, generate. So now I have the seed and the image. And this way I'm doing everything I can to make sure that I don't have to redo my video generation. So this right now is my 4th attempt at getting this perfect man walking in the forest scene. But if I were to start from the fixed seed and the reference image, I would have the most consistent result. So let's hit play on our video. You can see that they're laughing just like we wanted. And the subject is the same, the mood is the same. It's actually using our first video. Notice the little stump it does that we talked about earlier. So if I were to start with that reference image and my fixed seed, I could avoid making videos 4 times before I reach what I'm looking for. Now, another thing that you can do is upscale occasionally. So when you do get a output, usually it's not in the best quality because it's trying to give you something quick and not use a lot of your credits on upscaling. So as you recall, upscaling is when we get to make our work more detailed. So it's going to focus more on sharpening the edges, taking out those smooth lines. So if I were to play, you can see how there's not a lot of details on his face, his jacket, there's some blurring going on, and that is on purpose because they're just trying to give you an output, see if you like it or not, see if you're going to make a different version, a different prompt. Let them upscale your image when you ask them to. So instead of upscaling everything, just do it when you're happy with your video. So if I'm happy with this guy, I could just go to actions and upscale to 4K. And that's going to be all the way down here. Now, this is a habit that a lot of beginners have when they generate something. They don't like how it looks, but it's at the same time they want to see what it would look like in the best quality. But that's going to waste a lot of your credits. So only turn it 4K when you're absolutely satisfied with the output that you have. So let's take a look over here. So here's our high quality shot. You can see it's a lot more crisp compared to this one. Trying to get them side by side. Let's go to 3 seconds. So you can see this is our high quality footage. This one is the old one. So it's a little blurry and we're getting a lot more details in the focused areas. His clothing has a lot more detail, a lot of those light reflection. It's showing us the texture of his shirt, or his jacket. Whereas here we kind of had a flattened look. So not a lot of shine over there. And his face was just very flat looking. Now, the last way to preserve your credits is actually using a third-party tool like ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek to refine your prompt before you even bring it to Runway. So say you have this idea of a man walking in a rainy forest, but you're not sure what camera angle you'd like to include in it, what the subject should look like, what sort of aesthetic you should go for, and that is where the third-party tools come in handy. So you can actually ask ChatGPT for a scene like this that you have in your mind, what kind of camera angle would work best to create a, for example, gloomy mood or a fun mood. If you see a movie that you like and you'd like to recreate it with Runway, you get to upload a screenshot in ChatGPT and have it give you a prompt that resembles that aesthetic. So in the next lesson, that's exactly what we're going to be focusing on, how to use AI chatbots to get that perfect prompt so that you only come to Runway to generate that video. So let's talk about prompts. So essentially prompts are what are the instructions that you're feeding into Runway to generate that perfect video. Of course, you cannot just say something like a woman walking or a man jumping because you will get something completely random. You do want to specify a few things, and in this lesson we're going to go over each one and how we can use ChatGPT in this case to create really detailed prompts. Now, instead of ChatGPT, you can use any other AI chatbot. There's Gemini, DeepSeek, and a bunch of other stuff. So whichever you're comfortable with, just start it up right here. And we can get started with what makes a good prompt. So a good prompt for any creative AI tool, be it an image, video, an audio, or whatever, you do want to specify a few things. So I'm going to be focusing on video because Runway AI is mainly for video, but this to some degree does work with images. The first thing you want to specify is medium, or the type of shot that you're dealing with. Are you doing a hyper close-up, a long shot, a wide shot? And basically those are going to look very different. It basically talks about how close or how far the camera is or how wide or zoomed in the lens is. So the first thing is the type of shot. always assume that your videos and images are being filmed with a real camera. So if you were to grab a camera right now, what kind of lens were you using? How zoomed in were you? Was it a wide shot, a long shot, a micro shot, a close-up shot? Whatever shot you have, that's the first thing you're going to say in your prompt. So I'm just going to do a placeholder here. Type of camera shot plus. Once we got that out of the way, we have to talk about the subject. Is it a human? Is it a man, a woman, a dog, a cat, or a car even? Anything that is going to be the main part of that image. Now, if you do not have a subject, this is where you get to say a landscape, a skyline, whatever you want to say, but the elements, the main elements in that image is for you to describe in this section. So I will write subject, but like I said, it doesn't have to be a human. It doesn't have to be one isolated figure. You can play around with it and just describe what you want to see in that video or that image. Next, we have to talk about what's happening to that subject. So I'm going to write subject motion. So for my example, we're going to do, let's say, a man. So is the man walking? Are they talking? Are they smiling? Are they sitting? What are they doing? And if they're just standing there, you need to say a man standing still. This will help you prevent getting any sort of weird outputs. You're not going to get anything that's disfigured and just not up to what you were looking for. Next, we're going to talk about where this subject is. Are they at the beach, at the library, at the hotel? Whatever setting they're in, this is where you talk about it. Now, what is specific to that setting? If that man is at the beach, what's happening to the beach? Is it a perhaps stormy weather? Is it dark? Is it light? If they're at a library, are there a lot of books? Are there no books? So this is where we get to give some setting conditions or descriptions. Next, we're going to talk about the camera. Now, this is optional. You could specify it as a slow motion video, a fisheye effect. This is for more specialized sort of outputs, but you can put in some details about the camera lens or just technique. Over here, if you don't know what you should put in there, you can just skip this part or chat with ChatGPT on what sort of lens or technique would work great with what you're trying to make. Now, we can also talk about aesthetics. First of all, you can separate the technique and the lens. So with camera lens, I'm actually going to separate them. Camera technique. So camera lens, you could, this is again optional, say that you want to film this with a Canon 90D or a specific Nikon camera, just so that you can get that special look. For example, Fujifilm has their own unique styles. You can have Runway build things for you with a really high quality camera so that you can make sure the output is just as crisp and just as 8K maybe. And then the technique is what we said, slow motion, fisheye effect, stop motion, whatever you want to do. Now lastly is the aesthetics. This is where you get to talk about the style that the overall clip has. Is it a vintage look, black and white, golden hour, retro, neon lights, whatever sort of look you want it to have, you can specify that here. So this is the formula that you should use for all of your images and videos. Now for the places like camera technique, if you're working with an image, you can still use that same thing. So instead of slow motion, you can say a fisheye effect that applies to an image as well. You can do maybe a specific art form and put it here instead. Or if it just doesn't apply to your image, just remove camera technique altogether. Alright, so now that we have our formula, let's go ahead and make an example. I'm going to leave this at the top, hold down Shift and Enter to go to the next lines. And let's start with type of camera shot. So let's do long shot of, that's our first element. Who is our subject? Woman. what's the subject doing? Walking. And then where? At the beach. What's happening to the beach with clear blue waves in the back. And then we can do comma. You can use comma wherever you want. It's still one full prompt. Shot on a Canon 90D, comma. You can do slow motion with 4K quality. This is specifying the camera technique. And then lastly, the overall look. So we can say golden hour, just golden hour. So this prompt right here is very short, but it does include all the main elements. Now, if I were to generate a video like this, I'm not going to get a lot of small details. So the more details you add to your prompt, the better the result is going to be. So I'm just going to copy this and make a video from it in Runway AI. Let's go straight into generate video and paste our prompt. I'm not going to have any sort of reference image, so let's go to Gen 3 Alpha and hit generate. Now while this is generating, let's go back to ChatGPT and get a more detailed prompt. So I'm going to copy this again and let's delete this whole thing. Before you ask ChatGPT for the prompt, you have to kind of set the mood. So we're going to have it pretend to be a prompt engineer, and this way it's going to allocate the right resources to you. So as a prompt engineer for, say, Runway AI, comma, produce detailed video prompts by taking my simple ideas and adding more details to them. Then you get to say what type of results you want. I want my results to be ultra high quality and realistic. I want a gloomy look to my outputs and make really detailed characters. So this is my goal with Runway AI. I have to specify it here. If you're going for an art form, you need to say it here. I want my outputs to have a 2D, maybe pencil drawing style. I want my outputs to have like a retro style, neon colors, dull colors. Let's say go for dull colors. I wouldn't say dull, let's say for cool toned colors. So anything I want, let's hit enter and see what we get. Okay, so it's going to generate for Gen 2. Let's actually change our thing. I will be using Gen 4 turbo model. Alright, so now that I've done this, I can paste my simple prompt that we just made, hit enter, and it's going to spit out a much better prompt. You can see already it's a lot bigger, a lot longer. And if you read through it, you can see that it added cinematic, walking slowly, deserted beach at golden hour, the sky is overcast, faint glow, and it's being very detailed. So it's almost like a piece of literature right here. You can imagine this being read from a novel or something. But that's precisely the point. So let's go ahead and copy this. First of all, let's see what we got here. So you can see there is a woman for sure. There is a beach with the blue waves, but it's definitely not looking that good. I mean, we can't really tell if that's a dress or if she's wearing a bikini. Her size kind of changes. Then her sunglasses disappear. So a lot of inconsistencies over here, and that's because we gave no detail whatsoever to Runway AI. So let's go ahead and paste our really long prompt. And like I said to ChatGPT, Gen 4 Turbo. And better yet, let's actually do it with the same model we did here so we can do a better comparison. Let's hit generate. And to do the Gen 4 model, we would have to get a reference image, which we already know how to do. So let me just go to this real quick. Create image first. Same prompt, exact same thing. And I'm gonna get 4 images, so I can just choose the one I want. So generate and pick the best one to make a video from it. All right, so very detailed, very high quality and realistic. That's exactly what I asked for. If you click on any of them, we can just scroll through and see which one's the best one. As you recall, I did say golden hour, but cool toned colors. So you can see that contrast between yellow and blue in these outputs. Also, we have a very detailed human figure, which is perfect for our next clip. So let's go ahead and go back to video. This is the same prompt. I'm just going to select the asset that we just made. Go to sessions. I think we chose this one. Double click. And now Gen 4 Turbo. Let's go ahead and generate. Now right above it, this is our video. You can see that it did listen to our color choice. It did listen to the golden hour, the waves in the back. The human figure is a lot more detailed and she doesn't shrink or anything. There is that random water splash when she walks. Her clothing, it's in one piece instead of a disappearing bikini or what we had before. And overall, compared to what we had here, it's a lot better. And we did use the same model. Now this is with the reference image, same prompt, and Gen 4 Turbo. You can see that it's looking pretty good. The character is pretty consistent. We still have the elements that we asked for. Now let's try the same thing with our previous prompt. Copy that same reference image and hit paste. Let's see what we get. I'm actually curious. Given that we did give them the same reference image, I'm hoping that we're going to get the same subject, just maybe not as good as this one because the prompt is a lot shorter. All right, so here is our shorter prompt. It's not that bad, I would say, because it's kind of going based off our first clip. Now I'm actually curious if we were to make an image with our really short prompt. So let's delete this and just paste it right over here. And again, 4 images. And let's just compare the mood that we're getting with this generation. And ultimately, it comes down to what you're looking for. So if this is way too gloomy for you and you did in fact prefer the first one, by all means, you can go ahead and use it. But since I'm going for something gloomy, this last one is a lot better for me. So this is what we're getting. It does have golden hour, not a lot of those colors that I wanted. We do have a subject, pretty consistent, but it's not exactly as cinematic as this one. So that's why it's really important to be specific with what you're looking for, or else you're going to get really generic image generations like this. And if you were to turn these into videos, it would work just fine. It's just that going back to our last lesson, if I were to spend a lot of credits creating maybe 20 of these and I'm still not happy with the way it looks, I am going to waste a lot of credits. But if I use ChatGPT, refined my prompt in that program, and just simply came to Runway to generate it, I would be saving myself a lot of time and credits. Now, in terms of refinement, we can just go back here and have it tell us what sort of camera angle works best. Maybe we can even ask them to give our subject a certain clothing. So what camera angle do you recommend for a gloomy and thriller movie look? Also, I want my subject to be wearing black clothing to intensify the gloomy mood. Whatever you want, put it in here. Let's see what we're gonna get. So it's first going to explain to us what it's doing, and here is the final prompt. Now, if any of these, as you're reading through them, makes no sense to you or you're not sure, again, this is a whole different program, so you get to just talk with ChatGPT. Why are we doing a low angle shot? Why not a high angle one? Try to make my camera angles like this movie, or use this reference image to give me a prompt. So feel free to change it up as you see fit. I'm just going to copy this and just put it in my video. Same reference image, I'm just going to switch out my prompt and let's see what we get. So it didn't give me the low angle that I was looking for, but you can see it kind of panned out and instead just gave us the tracking shot, which is still pretty good. If I do want the exact thing that I generated a prompt for, I would have to once again make an image, refine my character, and then turn that into a video. Now you can see down here it does give us the option to keep the scenes consistent. This is something we're going to get into in a further chapter. But say I did want to make an entire movie with this one specific character. If I were to use the same thing over and over again, I might get different results. Maybe in one of the scenes, it's the same face, but she has a different hairstyle, or her clothing may change. That's where we get to use references in different locations to have Runway study the structure of the character and keep it consistent throughout the entire movie. Alright, so now because we did say a tracking low angle shot, it did give us what we need. You can see it's low angle and she's wearing black clothing. And I can now just use this for my video. So there is the character that I'm happy with. I use ChatGPT and the Gen 4 Turbo to make my character look gloomy, like I asked for. She's wearing the clothing I want. And we're getting some pretty interesting head movement over here, which I did not ask for, but Runway kind of improvised and put it in there. And if I don't want that movement, I would have to go back to my prompt and say that character should keep head looking straight ahead or not moving, and just finalize the way it looks. So if I were to just start from here, copy from ChatGPT, paste it here, make my image, then my video, save myself a lot of credits, than to generate things 9 times. Now that we know how to use our credits effectively, let's go ahead and learn how we can make a full video, not just one 10-second scene, from scratch. What is the proper workflow and how do we avoid getting unwanted outputs? Now that we know how to use ChatGPT and what the Runway platform has generally got to offer, we now have to think, how do we go about starting a cinematic video? How do we get those perfect angles, consistent subjects, try to match that mood that we're going for? So apart from getting prompts, as we mentioned in the previous lesson, you can actually chat with ChatGPT and figure out exactly how you can get that idea and turn it into reality. So let's go ahead to Runway, and I'm going to go down to Runway Watch. I'm just going to show you the possibilities, so let's just go with this one. So all of this is done by AI, and you can see we're getting a lot of different angles. And if I want to create something very similar, I wouldn't exactly know how to word what's happening here. And this, which is done by this person, we can actually have ChatGPT explain, first of all, what this type of cinematography is called, how do we get those angles, and then how do we, what our subject should look like, and etc. So what I'm going to do is just copy this link. Let's actually open it on YouTube and then just start asking. So how do I recreate the angles in this video? Walk me through the prompt and how I can customize it with my own character. Alright, so first of all, it gave us a YouTube video to watch, but you can see right here that it tells us exactly the formula. So the movement of the camera, character scene, lighting, mood, style. So here's an example, which is pretty long, and what I'm going to do is copy that one. Actually, it gave us a template, Very nice. If you're not getting a template, just ask it to provide you with one. I'm going to paste it here. I just copied this template. So my character, let's decide what my character is. A robotic woman. A robotic woman moves swiftly through a futuristic city as a camera follows close behind. And then I guess I'll keep the neon reflections. Illuminate the scene with neon reflections and fog amongst the people passing by. So cinematic, dynamic, let's add dramatic. And I think I'll do the futuristic. I'm going to put Tokyo City so it's more specific. Illuminate the scene with neon reflections from the building signs. And have fog spread out amongst the people passing by. So this would be my first prompt where I get started with. Now, in terms of how I actually have that character, so when I say a robotic woman, that subject can look different. We can go about giving her short hair, long hair, no hair at all, a certain color to her robotic parts, and there's just so much that you can do. So instead of just copying this and putting it in Runway, you actually have to work to build your subject. So what you can do is go to one of the generative sessions. Let's just make an image and write robotic woman. And then let's give her some unique styles with short hair, short straight hair, and green eyes, looking sideways at the camera in a dramatic way. So describe that subject and then give yourself the following settings. I'm going to do 16:9. If you want your video to be maybe a square or a vertical shot, feel free to change this and give yourself a bunch of options so that we can build off from there. And then of course we have the quality. I'm going to raise it up because I'm going for that cinematic shot. We can also increase the creative variation because as of now I don't have a clear image in my mind as to what my subject should look like. You can play around with this if you want all of the different images, the 4 variations, to look the same. You can lower this, but I want different styles so that I could pick from them. And then we have fixed seed. I'm not going to turn it on, but if I see another artwork by someone that I think is pretty much close to what I'm going for, I could just copy the seed and prevent wasting credits. Okay, let's hit generate and see what we get. So far what we did was try to put that idea we have in our mind, that scene we have in our mind, into words. And we used ChatGPT for that help. Now, once we had that main prompt, we came over to the image generation session to figure out what the main subject looks like. If you don't plan on having a subject in your video, you can just talk about the landscape or the building or whatever you're trying to build. But it always starts with formulating that main scene. So are you in a forest? Are you in a futuristic city? Are you in home? Wherever you are. And if I like one of these, so this is what I like, I could just go ahead and increase my variation. So this is my reference. I'm going to get more. And that's where you're going to end up for step 2. So figuring out that main subject. Now, sometimes you can flip it the other way around. You can start building images with Runway and then download that image, put it into ChatGPT to make a scene from that. So we will try that right here. Let's get this image. I am going to download this, go to my ChatGPT. Let's actually save this for later. Now let's go ahead and upload that image. So formulate a scene that I can build with Runway AI. I want to have this subject run away from the camera in a dramatic way. dramatic way, as though she was being chased by enemies. Give me some prompt ideas and a template for me to customize. Now keep in mind when you use, if you're on the free version of ChatGPT, if you use an image or an attachment, you will run out of the amount of credits you can use, so you just have to simply make a new chat. Alright, so here's a scene idea, and this is the template that we've got. Some prompt fields we get to customize, so lighting, atmosphere, style. Here is our prompt for Gen 4, and then of course we have some variations. So let's say give me 3 variations. One during the night, one in an abandoned transit station, and one dodging laser blasts. And as you can see, I could just keep on going with ChatGPT trying to get that perfect scene. Once I have something where it remotely looks good, I could just put it in Runway and see what I get. So let's go ahead and select that subject that we liked. This was it. Double click and paste our prompt straight from ChatGPT. Robotic woman. Trying to see what the name of this image was. I think we're good. I'm going to do 5 seconds turbo. And while we're here, we can try the other variations. And then I can see how I need to further adjust my prompt. So that's the second one, and there's my third one. Now, if you're short on credits, you can just do 1 or 2, or spend a lot of time formulating the perfect one and just do 1 for the entire session. All right, so here is my first video. So that's a good tracking shot for sure. I'm just not a fan of how she's running. That's something I can again go over here and say, refer to that variation. In variation 1, she runs weirdly. Adjust the prompt so she runs like a robot. And then it's going to give you a adjusted variation. Here's a second one. You can see how the environment is different. She's running a lot better. We also get a faded, blurry shot. The last one was, I think, with the laser. It's a good attempt. Again, we can work on the way she's running. So that's how I could go about coming up with an idea. If I don't like this, I could completely cancel out the city. I could just do this in space. And it also helps for you to know what the sequence is. So now that you have your first scene, you can build off from there. What happens before this scene? What happens after? You can also have ChatGPT give you different scenes. So let's go ahead and just work with variation 1, which was this one, where she's just running. Not much to it. I want to build a movie with this. In the first scene, let's do actually with 3 scenes in total. And just tell it what you want to do. Scene 1, close up of her eye as she notices the enemy. Scene 2, the variation 1 robotic running style prompt. Scene 3, camera pans away as she exits the scene. Work on detailed prompts for each of the scenes and ensure they all match in style. I could do 5 scenes, 1 scene, 10 scenes. And you can see right away it tells me what I'm trying to do. Scene 1, scene 2, and scene 3. And it could even give you a storyboard layout. If you want to take this a step further, you could sketch your own storyboard and then upload those sketches to Runway so that it references that as it's building your movie. But let's just try each one. For this lesson, I'm not going to work too much on perfecting it, as we're just trying to see how we can use what we learned from ChatGPT and Runway to find the perfect workflow. Alright, so 3 scenes. Let's see what they look like. And then in the further lessons, we're going to see how we can build a full project from scratch. So here's our first scene where we had recognition. She notices the enemy. Let's see how Runway did. So that's pretty good. Scene 2 is when she's running away with the old prompt that we had. She kind of flips her head, but that could work with the fact that she's a robot, but you could just fix that in your prompt. And last scene, she's supposed to exit the camera. And so the camera pans out, she exits, and that is looking pretty good. So that's the general workflow. Once you have all your 3 clips, you then combine them together and make sure that in terms of style and references, you're working with one subject. So notice how I've only been using one image for this entire movie. That's not exactly what you want to do, but instead you want to create character references. Congratulations on completing this free Runway tutorial. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. But if you'd like to take this a step further, we have a full beginner course linked in the description. Not only are you going to learn all the essentials about Runway, such as in-painting, 2D design, 3D design, audio, image, video, and so much more, but you're also going to get hands-on experience by following along in the projects chapter. So you're not going to be just sitting somewhere and listening to me talk all the time. You're going to be following along the steps, and by the end of the course, you would have a few videos that you've made from scratch by watching our course. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.